Hi, welcome back everyone. In the last session, we have discussed about controllers, that how we can accept the HTTP request and handle it inside our controllers. So in the controllers, we are going to write the code which will save the data inside the database. And if we need to save some data into the database, we need to handle the connection for the database. We'll update the credentials of our database inside the environment file. So let's go to the environment file, and you can see there are certain key and value pair for DB connection, DB host, port, database, username and password. So DB connection is like if you want to connect with the MySQL database, you are going to update it as a MySQL. I'll go in the detail of database connectivity. So the environment file is only going to save your credentials. We do not need to commit it inside our application. So that's why we are updating it inside the environment file. From the environment file, it is read by the database configuration file. So you go to the config folder, database file, database.php file, and here you will see it's writing up some more configurations, like what is the default connection. So by default, it is picking up MySQL, and then it is having some connections, credentials, configuration being created. For example, SQLite, MySQL, Postgres, and SQL Server. You won't find the MongoDB over here. For applying MongoDB, you may have to add some driver and rewrite your configurations. We will connect with the MySQL database over here, and here you can see that it is looking for the driver. By default, it is set as MySQL. Then URL, it will pick up from the database, the environment file, then host, the DB host, port, database username. So with the environment function, env function is going to pass a key, and if the key is present inside the environment file, it will pick up the value from there. Else it has a default value over here. So we are going to use the MySQL connection. Let's go back to the environment file. Our host is the local system. My database server is installed on my system itself. Then the port number is the default port number. Database I have created, I'm going to create it with this name blog, and root will be the username. Password I think is password itself. Okay, let's go to the database to create a new database. Now inside my system, I am using MySQL Workbench. You can use PHP MyAdmin if you are comfortable with that. If you are good with MySQL Workbench, you can use it. These are just the clients, right? So database is MySQL. The client I'm using is MySQL Workbench, and I'm going to create a database named blog. So let's run this, and the blog database is created. We'll refresh the screen. Here we get this blog. Now there isn't any tables right now, and we will create some tables. We are making up the multi-user blog. So here there will be one table. I'll write it in lowercase users, and I expect that when a user is going to register, he will have a name, he will have an email, he'll have a password, and he's going to create some post which he wants to show on his blog. So every post is going to have a title, and it will have the content, right? So we are keeping a top level blog. We are not going at a very low level architecture. So users will have a users table will have a name, email and password field, and obviously it will also have a unique identifier for identifying the user. We'll call it as a primary key, and similarly every post is going to have a primary key. All right, and then the post belongs to the user. So because how are you going to identify if this post is written by so and so user? So we need to map it with a user ID. I'll go in more detail of the database architecture later. I'm just giving some idea on the top level because I need to create a post table right now. So how are we going to create the tables? Now few of the developers, they directly go to the database, they start creating up the table from their client, right? Which is fine, but if you are working with Laravel, I'll suggest not to create the tables directly in your database, right? Because Laravel has the library integrated, and it is providing us a feature of database migrations, right? So you are going to write a script which will track all the changes in your database. So whenever you are making any change to your database, any changes to the schema, you should always go through the Laravel process, right? Laravel standards. So here you see a database folder is there, and inside this database folder you will get the migrations folder. And we see that there are certain migrations already created, right? Now what is migration over here? Migration is a class, right, which will contain two methods, up and down. So in the case of up, you are making the changes to your database. Maybe you are creating a table, you are updating a table, you are either dropping a column or you are adding a column, right? So we are creating a migration, and here you can see it's calling up a function schema create. Schema class create function is being called, and it is telling that it will create a table users, and inside that table users it need to add a column which is responsible for saving ID, right? Behind this it will create a column with the type unsigned big integer, mark it as auto increment, and primary key, not nullable, primary key. And further it is creating a varchar column name, varchar column email with a unique constraint, timestamp, email verified at, then string password, and it is creating a column to save the token, right? When user selects remember me, it is creating up a remember me token, and then it is having a timestamps. So timestamps and ID are the functions which would be doing some background work, and timestamps would be creating two columns, created at and updated at. Okay, so you can look at this users table creation, right? It is given in like form of PHP script. When you are going to run the migration, then this up function is going to run, okay, and it will create the users table. When you are going to roll back your migration, then you are going to roll back your table creation, or you are going to run the instructions which are written inside the down method. So whatever work you are doing in the up method, the rollback should be written inside the down method. You don't need to write any kind of raw SQL, because Laravel is providing all the PHP equivalent code which you can use, the functions, methods, objects, classes, which you can use to create your schema, right? It is very efficiently created, and you will get all type of columns, methods, data types, everything you can create using this migration. So let's look at some other migrations also. Next one is create password reset, then a create failed jobs, create personal access tokens. So it is kind of giving you some user authentication kind of schema, okay? And we will create on and above this. So we have the users table, and it is very similar to the email, the architecture that we are thinking of, that okay, we need a name, email, and the password. So we'll be using up the same users, PHP create this create users table migration. Okay, now how to run this migration? Migration are already given by Laravel. Few migrations are already given by Laravel. So how are we going to run this? Let's see how we are going to run it. We'll first go to our folder, and we are going to use a new command, php artisan migrate. Remember, this command is going to run all the migrations which are available inside your project, right? So right now it is 4 migrations. It will run all the 4, right? You cannot run 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. It will run all the available migrations. Fine, let's run it. So you can see it has executed all the migrations. My database is already there, and it identified that okay, database is there, username, password is correct, fine. So it has executed the migration. So when I executed this migration, it created a users table, password reset, failed jobs, personal access, right? And remember, your migrations can be run in the form of chunks. So this is the first chunk has executed. All the migrations have run, and therefore it is like first batch of migrations has run. Let's go and see the tables. 4 tables which we have discussed are created, and 1 more table is created, migration. Now this migration is going to keep the track of all the migration run, because even accidentally if you go and run this migration again, nothing will happen. It will not overwrite your tables, because it has the track that the migrations which are available in the project are already executed, right? You can also check it on the command line using the command migrate status. So here you see it is mentioning up that these are the migrations which are actually executed already. Okay, now let's create one migration for our purpose. We are going to create a migration PHP artisan make migration create table posts, right? So PHP artisan make migration create table post, and I'm going to create a flag over here is equal to post. Now what is this actually going to do? This is the command to create a new migration. It will create a migration blank migration with the class name create table post, and then I am telling that what will I do with this migration? What am I going to use it for? I'm going to use it to create a table named as post. So some of the work will be done by Laravel. It will ease up my work. It is creating the migration create table post, and let's check it inside our project. Here you can see a new migration has been created, create table post. Okay, and it is prefixed with some date time, and here you can see it's showing up the kind of skeleton code for your table. The table name is post. It will have the first column ID as the primary key auto complete and auto increment, and then the table timestamp would be creating up the created at updated at column. So let's write up some other columns. $table. I'll use the method as a there are different methods like string, integer, so those will decide the column types, column data types. So here I need a foreign key, right? Foreign key. So for foreign key you can use a foreign ID. So foreign ID will be creating up a unsigned big integer column. Okay, but this will not actually create a foreign key. Why I am creating it as foreign ID? So I should not be like having some mistake in matching the primary key of the users table, right? So foreign ID, I'll call it as user underscore ID. Since I am following the convention users table and column name is user ID, I'll call it as the constraint. That okay, we can add this column, we can create this column, and the foreign key would be binded with the primary key of the users table. I'm writing up the constraint method because now it will pick up the column name. It will see okay, user, that means users table, and ID means ID column, right? So it is going to bind with the primary key of the users table, ID column of the users table. Okay, for a minute let's remove this because we have not yet worked on the users and other stuff, so we'll not keep the users ID column right now, foreign ID column right now. It was just the part of the migration I'm talking. So next I will take a string, and this will be the title of the post. Okay, and then I'll go for a content of the post. Now might be I am creating up a post and I just want to save it as a draft. I'm not going to publish it right now. So what we can do over here, we can call this column as a null column, right? So I'll write a method nullable. So table string content, the column created would be the content of the type varchar, and it would be a nullable column, right? So you can save with the title and keep the content as null. If you want the large text over here, you can keep it as text column. And one more column we should keep over here is string status. Okay, remember I'm not discussing about the performance part currently. We are only talking about the Laravel right now, how to create migration, controller, and all other things. Second part we will see the in-depth knowledge of everything, right from controller, migration, middlewares, everything. And third part we will create a major project in Laravel with the third-party integration, right? So this whole tutorial would be a very long series where you would be creating up like you will be taking knowledge from scratch till the project level. And okay, so we have created up the post table, which is having a string title, text content, string status column. Not writing up the foreign key right now. We will do it later when we have the user authentication part created, right? Right now my purpose is my motive is to show you the table creation and then inserting the data inside the table. Okay, right? So schema create post, and let's go to the terminal. Right, so I want to check the status whether this migration, is there any migration which is not yet executed? Yes, the one which we have just created, it is pending. Okay, let's run this migration. The command to run the migration is php artisan migrate. Right now, if you see in the database, there would be two batch, right? Batch 1 in which 4 migrations executed, then the second batch in which only 1 migration executed. Now let's suppose something went wrong. I want to roll it back. How are you going to roll it back? So I'm going to call the roll back, right? php artisan migrate rollback. So when you are rolling back, it will roll back only one batch, right? Only one batch. So number 2 batch was rolled back. Okay. Now if I'm going to roll back again, what is going to happen? It will roll back the 4 migrations, all the 4 migrations, right? But let's suppose you only want to roll back 1 migration right now. So here you can write steps is equal to 1. Okay, so right now it will only roll back 1 step. I'm sorry, it is step, I think. Okay, I get sometimes confused with this steps and step. So here we have the 1 migration rolled back. So it is not rolling back the whole batch, right? And now if you roll back, so what is going to happen? It will roll back all the 3 migrations, right? The complete batch without any step. So I'm not going to roll back now because we have understood already. Let's migrate. So now in the second batch, you have 2 migrations. So don't bother about this batch. Once you start doing up the project work and all, so there would be a lot of batches getting created and hundreds of table will come in your projects. Okay, let's clear this screen. So all my tables are created. Refresh this. And here you see you have the post table. Okay, so here we understood how to create a migration and how to create a migration. I'll give you one more important learning over here. If you want to add a new column, right? Suppose your migration is created, you have deployed it, means you have uploaded it to the server database is already executed with this migrations and tables are created, right? So don't make the change in your existing migrations. If you have deployed the things to your servers, don't make the changes in the existing migration. For example, I wanted to create one string, let's say tags. Suppose I wanted to create some tags on this. Okay, or let's say image. Okay, image URL. So I'll keep it as image. Image might be nullable for now. Let's say a cover image. Okay, now if I'm doing this kind of work, this is really bad. Don't make the changes inside the existing migration if they are deployed to the server. Okay, so how to manage this thing? If you want to add a new column, how are you going to work it? Simply go and create a new migration. PHP artisan make migration, a meaningful name. Don't write it create table. We'll say add underscore column underscore post underscore table, right? This is a name only for your readability. So here I'm just saying that, okay, in this migration, we are going to add a new column to the post table hyphen table. Now the flag has changed. It is not create, it is hyphen table equals the post table. So there would be a slight change in the migration definition which would be created. So let's check this. See, here it is written as table. If you check your previous create table post, it is written as create, right? So that is the difference. If you are writing up the function create, it will create a new table with the post name. And in this migration, we have told Laravel that we want to make the changes in the existing table, right? That flag was basically for telling that the post table is already existing. So now let's create a table variable $table, and we'll call the method. I want to create a new column string. I'm not thinking of a good name right now, but let's write it as a image underscore URL. Okay, so now we are creating a new column, right? So what should we do over here? If we are creating a new column in up, we need to create drop the column in the down. Okay, the column is created inside the up function. It should be dropped inside the down function. One more thing. let's say this is status, right? This is status, table string status. So here I want that this is, because this migration was deployed, so I'm not going to make changes over here. I need to make the change inside this column. I'll go over here, I'll mention up that okay, I already have a status column, but I want to make something changed over here. The change is I want to set a default value for this, right? Default value for this, and the default value, it is a string, so I'll put it in single quotes. Default value is drafts. Okay, but if I run this way, right, that means I'm creating a new column, but the column is already created inside the post table, right? So what you need to do, you need to mention a change function. Now see the difference. This column is being created, but this column is being changed, right? So it is having a default value. So now what is the reverse of this? I mean rollback part of this. You are going to roll it back to the previous state, right? It will not have any defaults. Let's run this migrations. PHP artisan migrate. Oh, okay, one very interesting thing. This is not an error at my end. It is actually something which Laravel should have taken care of, but I don't know why they have not taken care. So whenever you are updating a column, see this thing, change. Whenever you are changing a new column, remember you need one library to do that work. Okay, and that library is doctrine debal. Now we have not yet studied how to install a new library, but let's quickly do it, because without this our this lesson will not get completed. Okay, so I need this library to install. Okay, so composer require and this library doctrine debal. It will take quickly get installed, not take much of the time, and it is done. Okay, so your library is updated. It would be updated inside the composer.json. So this is like a one-time thing to be done whenever you have some migration which has a change method call, right? So let's go and run our migration. PHP artisan migrate. Cool, it is working. So add column post table. Let's go to the database and quickly see the structure. So yes, you can see like you have one batch of migration, 2 and 3, and these all have created up the table. So here you have the post table. Let's go and check ID, title, content, status, created at, updated at, and at the end image URL, because that has come later. And if we want, we can also create it somewhere between title and content. We'll see it in detail session when we'll do a like advanced migration, how to create indexes, how to create up, change the database, columns, alter them, right? Unique key, foreign keys, right? Composite keys. We'll see a lot of things when we do the advanced learning in our this course. Okay, so going back to this structure, see post and right, this one I wanted to show you. See the status. The default value is drafts. It is now a not null column, and it is having the default value as draft. That means whenever you are creating a new post, it will be created by default as a drafts, and then you have the option to publish it, right? So in today's session, we have understood how to create the database using the Laravel migrations, right? And you can create the tables, you can update it, you can update the columns. A lot of functions are there. I'll also add, now onwards, I'll also add the documentation link which you can refer related to the today's video. For example, today we have done the migration. So here we can go back and inside the documentation, we can look about the migrations. Like some of you who want to go a bit advanced, they want to read about the migrations, etc. They can check it. Go to the database, and here is the migrations, right? So I'll post this link in my description of the video, and please, I would request you all to subscribe and share with your colleagues who want to learn Laravel, or college students. You can guide them. And that's all for today's session. Thank you. Bye.